Sir Dion X is a professional dominant and content creator from Seattle, Washington. He hosts bi-monthly BDSM play parties, workshops, and private sessions, and has recently expanded his work to include content creation. With a growing following on social platforms such as X and subscription platforms such as Just for Fans. Sir Dion X also has great style when it comes to leather fashion. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. That's wonderful. Oh my God. All right. So, um, I guess the first question I would like to ask is what got you into this lifestyle?
Curiosity, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was, I've always been interested in alternative sex, alternative lifestyles. And when I was in college, I was actually going to a swingers club that happened to be in the city, and they would have dungeon nights. So that's when I was first really exposed to kink. Then later in my college career, there was actually a student group that got started, a kinky student group. And that's when I actually met people my age or around it who were interested in kink, who had experience in kink. Went to some of their events and realized it was something that I had more interest in. Fast forward, I'm living in Savannah in 2012. I just moved there. I knew I wanted to find my people, and I consider swingers my people, honestly, but that scene was hard to find. And so I looked for the kink scene and found it. And it was a great TNG or next generation group in in Savannah, and they were all about like education, munches, having demos at parties, and yeah, like I went there, and that's the rest is history. Here we are now.
Hmm, excellent. So, when you say it was hard to find swingers, how would someone do that? How would someone try? Not that I'm just saying.
I mean,
Or maybe. Okay.
I'm not here to yuck your yum. Um, yeah, I was looking online. I felt like there was a specific resource that I had that like wasn't working out, and I can't remember what that was. But what I did know about was a website called FetLife, and that's especially back in 2012, that was kinky Facebook. It still is, but it's the audience has changed a bit and the website has changed a bit. But with that, that's where I was able to find the first kinky events that I was going to.
Hmm.
It sounds like
Um,
you had a fun college, though. I mean, I don't know many colleges that like
yeah.
what would we all have
Yeah,
discovered if we had these clubs in college, right?
right. Yeah, it was and I didn't tell anybody while I was in college. There was one person that knew. This person happens to produce this podcast. Um, and yeah, that's who I would share my little adventures with.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Actually, along those lines, like, do you feel like from then till now, do you think things have opened up a little bit? Certain things are more accepted? Does the climate feel
Oh
different
yeah,
for you?
it's completely different. And I got into kink right before 50 Shades of Grey came out.
Oh,
And
that's
the community then is very different than it is now. Um, but yeah, it's much more acceptable, much more known. Kinky people are out and also working to demystify kink and to make it so that people may have a better understanding of it. And yeah, then we can be more out there and it just keeps going.
I feel like I want to ask, I wanted to ask what is considered kink, but maybe I should ask what would be considered not kink, because it's
Vanilla.
probably a longer list on the other end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, vanilla kink or vanilla activities, vanilla sex life is average, I'd
Hmm.
say, where it's, just the usual
Okay.
missionary, doggy style, oral, anal, all that. I'd say that would go
Anal's
into,
not kink.
well, for some it
These
is.
days.
For some it is. I can't say it's not.
Oh no, I want your opinion for sure. My opinion means
Yeah,
nothing here, believe me.
everyone's opinion means something. But I wouldn't say anal would be considered a kink, partially because for a good part of the population, anal sex is sex.
Right.
So
That's a really
so
good
yeah.
point. You're right.
Also, Jayson,
Yeah.
I have written for a mainstream health outlet how to have anal sex, which in my opinion, if people are getting those assignments for major outlets, then it doesn't seem like it's like
Hmm.
fringe or that's how I gauge things, right? What I'm asked to write about
Right.
in a major, if it's that mainstream.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, I have no problem with it at all. I've just never, I'm not someone that seeks it out. Like I've never been like with a girl. I'm like, I'd really like to do this. Whatever turns her on, besides poop and pee, I'm in. That's my line. Everything else is pretty much, well, except funnily enough, I could never be dominated in bed. If I were, I don't think I would
Hmm.
even be remotely turned on. I think I would fight. Like I'm just, it's not. I'm more
You
of the
might
dominant.
surprise yourself.
I don't know.
It's
It's a
crazy
thing.
what some people can bring out of you, though. There are parts of yourself that you wouldn't want to access, maybe not be able to access until someone kind of pushes that button,
Hmm.
and you're like, oh, wait, maybe this is kind of cool.
Is that the what's it called? Uh, base something? Wait a minute. What's it called? What's the term? Where you it's like the state you're in when you're being
Oh,
dominated.
subspace.
Is that it?
That's a state that folks can get to.
Yeah, and it's I've been told by a friend of mine that it's better than drugs.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard the same. And in seeing people get there and seeing how they act, how everything changes. It's interesting. It's a great experience.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
so in all your years of doing this, have you always been dominant or do you switch off? How does that work for you?
I've always identified as a dominant. I know a lot of switchy folks, and there are some things um, where there may be some switching, but and that's one thing. So as far as dynamics, I don't switch. I'm a dominant. But as far as being a top or a bottom, that's there are some places where I will bottom for something, um, but I will not be in a submissive role.
What's the difference between being a submissive role and being a bottom? I mean,
It's
just
all about the dynamic. Yeah,
Mhm.
there's a and power exchange. When you're submissive, you are giving your power giving power to someone else to dominate you. Yeah, it's submitting to this person. You can be a bottom and not be submissive, not be dominated.
Okay. So bottom doesn't necessarily mean you're on the bottom. It's more of a term than.
Right. The bottom
Okay.
is receiving the thing. The top
Okay.
is doing the thing.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I love to flog. I'm someone who that's my thing, impact play. And I can be a flogging top, which means I'm just flogging someone. or I can be a dominant top in which, or sadistic top in which I'm bringing in relationship dynamics, making sure the person that is bottoming knows they are submitting to me, really making that a part of the scene and a part of the dynamic.
So can you, because we're assuming that people that watch this might have no idea what it, can you explain flogging and really any
Yeah,
term that you use just so that people can have that?
yeah, no problem. Thanks for the reminder. Flogging is, we'll start with impact play. There are different types of play in kink and BDSM, and impact play is one of those types. You have impact play, you have sensation play, and others. And so impact play is when you're actually hitting someone. You're having an impact on their body with either bare hands, floggers, canes, paddles, some sort of instrument. So a flogger is a type of impact instrument that has flails. It's got handles and flails, and the flails are usually made of leather. I prefer heavier ones, so mine are elk and bull. I have elk and bull skin floggers. But those are, you can get different types of sensations from floggers. It can be thuddy, it can be stingy, it can be it can caress your body. It can also leave bruises. It's all about what's negotiated between the top and the bottom, or the dom and the sub for that scene. And a scene is when you're interacting in a BDSM play with another person.
Right. Jason, your sound went out.
Subspace is the term that I was told. I finally found it.
Mhm.
When they're in that, when a person's in fuck space or subspace, how do you, I know that we've all heard safe words and stuff, but you
Right.
also are, I've heard that you're also afraid to take them out of the place that they're in, but you're also trying to be safe with them. How do
Mhm.
you tell what level they are and what safety level they are in, um, without ruining their experience and without making it go too far?
Right. This is definitely along like the 201, 301 line of kink. And so it's people with experience who are usually doing this, at least in my when I'm working with people, playing with folks. I've only had more experienced subs that know that they go into subspace, they enjoy subspace, and for some, it's their goal to get to subspace. And and so we talk about what that looks like during negotiation. And negotiation is just the discussion that you have before a scene, or discussions depending on what kind of scene it is or what you're negotiating. And with the negotiations, we talk about safe words. We talk about, for me, if I know that this person enjoys subspace, I ask what that looks like. I ask how to essentially like communicate with them if they're there. But also, I know that that's usually not a place where someone can communicate very effectively. And as a top, it's my job to know what to do in those situations. So some folks will go nonverbal, and in some cases, going nonverbal is bad, but in some cases, that's a sign of subspace. So we discuss that early on before we play. What do you look like when you go into subspace? How are you reacting to things? And yeah, it's once that's discussed, then
Hmm.
you kind of know what to do in those situations, and you know whether,
Wow.
and you know how to react. If we've not discussed this, or if we have discussed it and someone says that they go nonverbal, that's a bad thing, then you know if that happens, you need to stop. and check in, because you should be checking in throughout the scene anyway. But you
Mhm.
need to stop and check in and see what's going on. That could be the equivalent to someone calling red or using a safe word. Whereas in the other situation, like if that's when they go into subspace and they still want to be played with, which in my experience, that's what happens when someone's in subspace. They still want the things to be done. And so it's that's also usually when the endorphins are like really running.
Mm.
And so the bottoms that I've worked with can usually take more at that point.
Mm.
And so you can go a little further, but you also don't want to don't want to start pushing someone when they're in subspace
Mhm.
because of the way that consent works, and you don't want to go any further than you've already agreed to go.
Wow. I had no idea about this at all before. Like I have a really
Yeah,
good friend who she's pretty into stuff like this, or at least used to be, and we've never really talked about that before. And so when I said we were interviewing you, she's like, "Well, I got a list for you," and I was like, "What?" And yeah, that was one of them.
nice. Yeah, yeah, subspace, it's also an intimate space.
Yeah.
You don't go there with everyone, whether it be a matter of skill or a matter of trust and vulnerability. Just the kinky space, the scene space it's intimate, it's vulnerable in general. And so that's usually with a partner that you've been playing with for a while or who you've
Okay.
already got some sort of connection to.
Right. Wow.
So that's interesting because you do this presumably for a living, right?
Mhm.
So does that mean that you have to really connect with clients, or do you turn down people that you if you feel like you don't have some sort of connection with them?
It depends on what they're wanting. Some clients are just one-offs where they just want to have one session and they're gone. But with repeat clients, with my regulars, that's where that's where a relationship does start to develop. It's still a client, uh, yeah, provider-client relationship, but it is a relationship, and so that intimacy does come with it in a way, but the parameters around it are different than a personal relationship.
Wow. Um, God, I have so many questions. Um, I really do. They're like flooding in my head. Um,
I'm here
well,
for it.
I mean, all right, I'm kind of random, so like, Rena, if you want to stay on track, I mean, because my first question that pops into my head that I've been dying to ask you, well, I'm going to ask it now that I've just said that. Do you think red-headed people have a higher pain tolerance? Because it supposedly was a hey, wait, it was this actual study that was done and said redheaded people have a higher pain tolerance than people without red hair. And I just want to know if you've noticed that or not.
I So I was in a relationship with a redheaded submissive for about 3 years. The submissive is also a nurse, and
Hmm.
so I would hear about that study a lot. They were also a masochist, so
Mm.
it was they were already going to have a high pain tolerance and
Ah,
enjoy that.
okay.
Um, I'm and yeah, like, I've heard it. I'm trying to think of other
Rena thought
redheads
I was
that I've
crazy.
played with.
I have not heard that study. Now I want to look at it. How many? What do you know about the study? What do you think about that?
Like
I
me?
know very
Not no,
anecdotal
not you, Jayson.
I know very anecdotal info about it, and my sub was definitely using it to kinda brag and give a little bit of reason to why they're a masochist. But I what I do find interesting, and maybe Rena, you can speak on this, is femme folks' relationship to pain. I hear when it just in talking to the femme folk that I know, there's it seems like there's always, not always, but usually like some kind of pain that one is going through, and like the gamut just runs crazy. Like mask folks don't like obviously don't know what it's like to have a period and to go through that. But also like mm,
I'm sorry.
well, anyway,
Did you say femme folks and maths folks? I
yeah,
what
yeah.
I know
It's
I can kind of understand femme folks, but what are those two things?
mask,
Oh, mask.
MASC, so
Okay.
as in masculine. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Um, I've been really trying to get away from gendered language too much,
Hmm.
especially when talking kink, because of the way that folks can identify
Oh
different
yeah.
parts of themselves that may not fit into a man or woman
Hmm.
kind of place. Um,
That makes sense.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I do find the relationship that folk have to pain very just very interesting. And that's I've met a lot of masochists who are femme, and um yeah, yeah, just a thought.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm sort of guessing here, I guess, or hypothesizing based on what I know about writing for a living, on health and wellness and all of that. I mean, I wonder if that relationship also has something to do with the medical community just has historically
Mhm.
ignored the pain of femfolk and not treated it. And so I wonder if some of that is also people's experience in trying to access pain relief and not being able to and having to just
Yeah.
kind of push through it.
Yeah, yeah. I know a few folks with chronic illnesses, so like rheumatoid arthritis or
Hmm.
Hmm.
yeah, those kind of fibro, fibro. I've met a few folks with fibro, and um, that's, I mean, like a whole different kind of pain. But also, there've been instances where the medical profession has not responded well to people saying, "Oh, I have this, I feel this, I'm in pain all the time," and it's like they
Hmm.
can't acknowledge that, that chronic illnesses exist, or that just because someone may look like they're not in pain, it doesn't mean that they're not like going through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Do you have a demeanor change when you're in a scene? Because like I had an impression of what you were going to be like, and it's not at all what you are. So like, is there like a switch that goes on or something? Like almost like an act. You still called it a scene, so is it like acting kind of like or?
There's definitely a part of myself that I channel for, like, in scene, but that's another I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions about kink is that we are all inhabiting these roles 24/7,
Hmm.
um, and it's not like there are some people who do. There are people who are 24/7, like, lifestylers, and nothing but respect to them, and I under like, um I mean, that's advanced play. Um, but yeah, I think it's important also to be able to interact with folks outside of those personas, so that they realize like I'm still a human being. I'm still a person, but I inhabit these roles and like know how to do these things.
So what would that look like if somebody was living that in their day to day? Right? Like, because you're probably not doing kink play all the time, but how does that
Right.
manifest in other aspects?
It's mostly in the way that they interact with the other person involved or other people involved. There are leather households, there are, dom slave households, or master slave households, dom sub households where the the dominant person is taking lead in that relationship, and that's usually what's called TPE, which is total power exchange, where the submissive has given over agency in certain parts of their life to the dominant to make these decisions. And so it could be as detailed as I'm going to tell you what to eat, when to eat, and like when you go to sleep, when you need to be waking up, to like more general stuff like I'm going to give you chores or I want you to write a diary every day and write one that you're going to be writing like to me. Um, and there's also like casual ways that it can be shown. We folks are really familiar with collars, and which is one of the ways that kink has gotten into the mainstream. You see people wearing collars sometimes, and that's directly from kink and the world of BDSM. But there's also casual collars or collars that are just maybe a necklace. Like it doesn't always have to be a thing, like a big thing that you can see. It can be something where the submissive and the dominant know what this is and what this means. And, it doesn't matter if anyone else understands. And
Is that
so
where
it's
chokers came from?
I no, some of them do look like collars. But I remember the little plastic ones that
Hmm.
folks would wear back in the day. Yeah, that's like I resist saying it came from that because I like knew, but yeah, just in my experience, I knew of it before I knew kink. But it wouldn't be too much of a, it wouldn't be much of a reach to say that it does, but it did.
Hmm. When I was
And
doing
some of the,
research, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say some of them do look like collars, and those would definitely be
Yeah,
the
I know
ones
what
that
you
would
mean about those
be
plastic ones.
inspired.
They kind of look like they're like see through and stretchy a little bit. I think I
Mhm,
remember those. When I was doing research, I came across you were talking about losing complete power, and I
mhm.
came up with this. I read about this one thing where people would and this is going to be what's too much for you, and what when you would say no, we're not doing that, because this would be this might be a candidate. Uh, that submerge the person underwater so that they just have straws coming out of their nose so they can breathe, and the person that's dominating them every once in a while either pinches the straws or drops a little water in. I, that gives me nightmares, but
That sounds like yeah, that I'm scared of that.
no,
Actually.
they sign up for it, and they have a button
Uh,
they
y
can like go no more or whatever. Is there
Wow.
something that's too much?
I have a friend that says they always like to try things twice, and I'm kind of there. Like, there are things that I don't have interest in, but under the right circumstances, I would try. And if I try it and I like it, great. If not, then at least I know. Um, but yeah, like there's definitely limits. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you haven't heard one yet. Like when they haven't had to say no.
Well, okay, so like there are like earlier you said like shit and piss essentially
Mhm.
wouldn't work. And so like that's but there are folks who like scat play and water
Yeah.
sports. Not especially scat. Scat's not my thing. Um,
Mhm.
but under the right circumstances, if a client wants that, that's when it comes at a premium. But also,
Right.
that's, that okay, we can do this. And so that's why that question is kind of hard for me to answer. I like saying yes before I say no, and I like being sure that I don't like something. But like there are certain things, like things that you wouldn't think of. Some folks involve, which is bad in general, like this is pedophilia, but some folks involve children in their play, some folks involve animals in their play.
Hmm.
That's not something that I'm interested in
Right.
whatsoever. Um, Anything that could that doesn't have consent is
Mm.
where that's definitely where a line is.
Yeah.
And that's not just consent between the two people, but say it's a public scene. The
Uh,
people that you're around didn't consent to this. And so that's something, and there is the thrill of it, right? Like, oh, we might get caught. This is fun. This is sexy. Look at how many people are passing and don't notice. Um, but also, I'd say I prioritize consent above that.
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's smart.
That's one thing that I've noticed because I've done like a couple articles and talked to people, and then I've watched documentaries on like kink, and people in those spaces are so good with consent. And then people that like
Mhm.
practice what you call the vanilla sex seem to just be terrible at communication and consent. And it's like, how can we, how can they learn? I guess from,
And
I feel like
that's one of the
everybody would be
main
having better sex, right? If we-
right. And that's one of the main draws to kink. I'm also polyamorous, and in both of those lifestyles, communication is key. Consent is key. Um, and so yeah, with especially in kink, and part of the reason why vanilla folks aren't having those conversations is because it's assumed that you just know the things because you're not doing anything crazy. We're just doing the regular shit.
Mhm.
Um, but that doesn't fit like for everyone. And if you know to have these questions, or just to ask, like, how do you like to be touched? How do you like to be talked to? What kind of dirty talk do you like? What kind of dirty talk don't you like? Like, those are conversations that kinky folks are having all the time, or at least should be. And so you also become better at talking about what you like, which is that's the biggest issue with clients or potential clients. Sometimes they can't actually articulate what they want because we're not used to asking for what we want when it comes to that kind to BDSM, sex. That's not something that we're very practiced at. It's just kind of speaking in innuendos and seeing what works.
Yeah. Also, you might feel like if you're with a partner, um, you might have a religious background that you may not be practicing. However, you've been trained since birth that sin, sin, sin. So you may want something wild, but you don't want to freak them out because really what you're saying is that I don't know if I would be able to handle this, hearing this. So like you've been
Mhm.
taught, don't say these things. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
big deal with
and
people.
that's one of the levels of healing that you get with kink and that you get with these relationships and experiences. Um, you start to lose that shame of your
Mhm.
desires of what you want. Um, the people masochists are meeting other masochists. They're meeting sadists. They're meeting people who share this interest and whose kinks line up with theirs. And so they don't have to be ashamed. Yeah, and this was personal for me as well, but what they enjoyed in the shadows is being celebrated and being brought to light. And it's, yeah, celebrated when it is brought to light and asked for. So yeah, that's another part of it when it comes to just communicating and being clear about what you want.
It's an interesting point of people coming into it and wanting to explore but not knowing what they want. How do you navigate that situation?
Asking very direct questions. I also have a questionnaire that I send to potential clients once they've actually scheduled their session. And it's a checklist, like literal
Mm.
checklist. Is this what you want? Is this not what you want? Rank your top 5 things. And I send another questionnaire that's asking the more personal questions, like, what's your why? Why do you want to do this? And I actually sent that to one potential client, and in exploring that, they like some stuff came up, and they actually canceled the session once they actually started thinking about it. So that can like not everyone is ready to go there, um, which is fine. Sometimes it stays on the surface for a reason.
So how would do you it's called hay pigs? Have you heard of that
Apex,
term?
yeah,
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 is that considered something that would be a dominant thing that you'd be interested in doing, or is that
yeah. That's when you get into Findom, which is financial domination. And the entire point of that play is to take control of someone's finances and I wouldn't say like abuse it, but you are consistently like putting a price to interacting or just saying, send me this money. And the people get off on losing that control, on having to, send the money to this person or pay for this or that.
hmm.
They're
How
not
did
as
in Oh, go ahead. I had a
I was gonna say they're not as common as I would hope, but but they're out there.
because I wonder how, like, if somebody's into that, how do they put parameters so that they don't lose all their money? Right. And I would guess
Mm,
for the person that's getting the payout, you don't want to wipe out every client like every time. You
right.
want to keep that money flowing. So do you know
Yeah.
how that works?
It's all about negotiation at the beginning. That's where those parameters can be set. You can also renegotiate if you thought things would go well under certain parameters and they're not, then you can go back to the table and yeah, renegotiate those things.
Is there a documentary on Netflix? I saw it. I just can't remember the name of it, and I can't remember if it's on Netflix. But yeah, there's some people out there that don't care about whether they wipe the person out or not. um,
Yeah,
they've like ruined families and stuff, just wiping them out. Like people committing suicide, and they're still taking money from them and stuff. Like it's like
it's,
it can get
I've,
pretty
I've
crazy.
not seen it go that far.
Yeah, I'll
That's
try to find the
intense.
name of the documentary so you guys
Is
can
that
look at it.
like that established play, or is that just
Yeah.
somebody like
No, they're from
get
those sites. It's just really popular. Like, you know how TikTok has really popular people? Well, some sites have really popular uh pay pig people. And
Mm,
yeah, they have like several people that they work with. But yeah, there's some that do it, they don't have any scruples and they just keep going and going and going and it's it's not good to destroy a person's life. So that's that's bad. But yeah, it's a documentary. I'll try
yeah,
to find it.
those seem like very extreme cases. I mean, and people will drain their pay pigs. There are findoms that will do that. However, it's that's not everyone's goal.
Right. Yeah.
And like the ethics of that it, there are questions. But like I said, it's all about consent. And there are two parts to it. Um, so yes, the the findom in that situation is responsible, has a responsibility. Um, However, the sub is they still have, I can't speak on someone else's situation, but in the way that I do kink, the sub would still have the agency to say something when
Mm.
when they're being drained and when everything's like
Mm.
running out. But I mean, people will sometimes just let these things happen as well. Um, and that's usually a case of impulse control issues where they're just kind of doing the thing. And that'll usually show up in other parts of their lives as well.
Yeah, I'll send it to you guys when I find it later. I'll get too worked up in searching for it.
Yeah, I
Um,
would like to watch. Think I've watched like probably every kink type documentary on Netflix. There was one. God, I can't remember. Or there was one on polyamory, and then there was another one on like this guy had. I think it was called Sanctum. He had this like big kink thing,
Mhm,
and like because a
mhm.
lot of them are actually out here. And so it's
Yeah.
interesting because when I watched the polyamory one, I realized that the woman's she teaches a pole dancing class like right
Mhm.
around the corner from me, and then the guy and I was like, oh, they eat it at this place, and so it's funny because you like actually see people like in the wild, I guess
Right.
so to speak, and like the sanctum, like the logo that they spray painted. I saw that around here, so it's interesting, I guess, from that. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's just fascinating, really. And I think like what strikes me the most is the level of communication and consent and how thoughtful and skillful people are in those spaces.
hmm, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because the stakes are high, there's not a lot of room for accidents. And no one's perfect. Like there are things that are gonna happen, and you're acknowledging that and planning for it.
Hmm. Another one of these terms are ones I'm not familiar with. I was just told by someone that knows about them. Uh, and it's like, nope, you have to ask him if you want to know. So, um, do you have like a local munch and um where newcomers can like learn, I guess? I'm not
Mhm.
really sure what it is.
Yeah, actually, we have one Saturday, but
Oh, all right. She
a
knows.
munch is a munch is a sorry. A munch is a get together of kinky folks, but in a vanilla space, and it's just a social. Like there's no play involved. There may be a workshop, but in general, it's just to socialize and get to know folks outside of the dungeon. Um, and that's also where you can meet folks who are going to the next party. And so you're not trying to negotiate a scene at the party, which happens. I mean,
Mm,
pick up play is a thing. Um, but yeah, if you're going to the munches, then you become part of the community. And that's one of the other like benefits to kink is the community of people.
it's like kink BNI. Like business, for businesses. Only I apparently know about BNI. Wow, that's interesting. Wow, gosh, I can't even imagine. So it's kind of like singles almost, but it's not. Wait, I'm trying to I'm trying to make an analogy so my brain can figure it out.
I mean, it's like trivia. Like people who go to trivia regularly, you're usually
Oh,
going with the same group of folks and it's social, or just going to like a bar with coworkers after work or something like that, or a restaurant or a coffee shop, or like a book club even, where you're just meeting,
okay.
socializing. And historically, munches used to be pitch-ins, where everyone brought a plate and everything, but they are more likely to be held like at a restaurant or at a buffet these days.
Okay. Wow. That would be interesting.
It's fun. that's where you get to know people's personalities. Um, Dungeons are fun, but that kind of environment really brings, I'm not gonna say yeah, that kind of environment lends itself better to other kinds of interactions. Whereas if you're in a vanilla place, if you're just at a restaurant or a coffee shop, um, that's not usually the face that you're putting on.
Right. Oh.
So, for people that are new and exploring this, how does somebody know if they're more dominant, more submissive? How do people figure that out? And how did you figure out that you preferred to be a dom?
It's There are actually questionnaires. A lot of folks are, and I didn't use one of these. I just I was around folks and really had to listen to like what called out to me and where I wanted to be. And when it came to kink, I knew I wanted to be in the community. I was interested. And I guess that's where it starts is if you're looking for that role, an interest in BDSM or an interest in being in a dominant submissive dynamic is there. And then with that curiosity, you open yourself up to, well, where do I fit here?
Actually, for people watching, are the questionnaires online? Like, is it something that we could link to? Like, if somebody's watching
Yeah,
this and goes, "I want to take a questionnaire."
Yeah.
yeah.
And how
I
do people
can
find their local munch? I think that's something that would probably, I mean, I would want to know.
FetLife is where I have found munches. It's great for events, for finding events, kinky events specifically, and it has you can filter down to your city. And so you can see the folks on FetLife who are in your city. You can see the events that are happening, and you can make a profile and interact with these people too. So you get a feel for, who they are. And like they're usually groups, like local groups. And so getting in touch with the group leaders is a good way to get to feel more comfortable at a munch. When I
Mhm.
was leading a group in Savannah, as group leaders, we made it a point to try and talk to everyone that was there, but also leave space for folks to come and talk to us. Or if they were going to be new, we'd say, hit us up before the event. Let us know you're new if you'd like someone to like hang out with or talk to at the munch.
Yeah, every time I filter anything down to where I live in Vermont, everything goes away. It becomes zero. It's always zero.
Everything's vanilla in Vermont.
I don't know about that, but they don't, it's like maybe this would be the one time actually, because we're pretty
Yeah,
progressive here.
you
But
should try it.
Yeah, you should make a profile. You'd be surprised
oh
what
my
you
God.
find.
Well, I don't know. I'm afraid that I would be going for. I don't want to be a poser or a person just going to spectate because I'm pretty sure I
I mean,
wouldn't be into
voyeurism
it.
is a kink.
Mhm.
Oh, well, there you go. That's just a completely accepting community. Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Interesting.
Spectating is participation as well.
Huh. I have this uncontrollable urge to tell you mine. Yeah. So anyways, my
I
main
mean,
the thing that
that's
I
usually how
like,
people are.
yeah, the thing that I like the feeling. I like role play, and I like the
Mhm,
woman. I love when her to confess that she has done something wrong, and then
mhm.
I'm now claiming her or redominating
Okay.
her.
Okay.
Don't know
Yeah.
why, but that because it's like a apology thing, and I don't know,
Mhm.
it's just something about
It's a
this,
power
like,
exchange.
yeah, like, and it's funny because some women have been like, you mean like cuckold? I'm like, no, it's the opposite of that, actually. um
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, I'm not saying something wrong with that. I'm just saying that's the opposite for me. That would do nothing for
Right.
me.
Right. You know what you're looking for.
Yeah. And some are better actors than others. Let me just say.
Yeah. I
Sometimes it
mean,
doesn't work.
commitment is part of it. Like just being willing to go there and to say some stupid things. Like
Yeah,
we're not
yeah,
actors.
yeah.
We don't have a script. It's just this is the scenario.
Mhm.
It's like improv. Like this is the scenario. That's it. Like do the thing. Um, and especially with role play. And that goes with dirty talk too.
Mhm.
A lot of folks are nervous about dirty talk because they don't want to sound silly. But
Right,
being able to like laugh at yourself or just let yourself go to the point where you say these things,
right.
that's kind of the point.
Yeah, you can be like comfortable. You're like, that was funny when you said, but it not mess up anything for next time because you're comfortable with the person. It's not like this doesn't become a thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I totally agree with that. Do you think there's a danger sometimes if people, I say danger because I say that it's possible this could be a bad thing, but maybe it's not ever a bad thing, but that you could, because like, what if you like feel like, oh, wait, if I do that too much, then regular sex won't be as fun anymore, or as engaging, or as romantic or whatever? Or is that just something that's, you're just, I feel like that's something almost like you're just going, well, I have to go back to that because that's normal. So,
Mm.
you know what I mean? Am I
It's
making any sense?
I understand what you're saying. Like, could it be a slippery slope?
Yeah.
Um, and where you become desensitized to,
Yes.
normal sex. Uh, I mean, that could happen, but that could happen with anything. I mean, you could be really into video games and all of a sudden you don't really want to have sex anymore, or like really into abstinence for some reason. Like anything can take that away. But uh, like just because you have like Ruth Chris Steakhouse, it doesn't mean that you don't still have a taste for McDonald's, right?
No. But no, I know what you mean.
I mean, I don't eat there,
I don't
but
eat there either, but
just
I do
in
love
general, like
it.
you may
And
still have a
maybe
taste for fast food. Like just
Right.
because you've had fine
You're
dining, it
right.
doesn't mean that you lose your taste for fast food or what you're
Totally.
used
maybe
to.
you don't have fine dining all the time. Like maybe
Right,
you'd
Right.
get tired of it, right?
right.
Oh,
Variety's the spice of life.
oh yeah, that's
Mhm.
actually kind of
But
interesting.
that's the thing about kink. You also have so many other things that you can explore.
Hmm.
If you really get into power exchange and you want to start, like for your scenario, the woman is sorry and really in this vulnerable place, and that's when you take control. You may start to punish her with spanking. It could be over the knee spanking, you could be flogging, but there's another like level to that where you now are incorporating you're incorporating impact play.
What's after that? Because we've done that already. What's the next level?
What's the top level? I don't think
No,
there's no
just the
such thing
next
as like
one.
a top level, right?
Well, no, I mean spanking, and I guess I never called it flogging because I don't have a special tool, but you know,
Yeah,
I'm single
without
right now,
the
by the way. So some of this is like just some energy that's flowing out of
without
here.
the actual tool, it's definitely like just spanking. So if you've not, pulled out a flogger or a belt or
Okay.
a cane or a paddle,
Mm.
there are other places that you can go with impact,
Hmm.
but you can also switch it up and do some sensation play. So you could maybe get a candle that is made for
Mm.
pouring on someone. So not your regular candle off of like from wherever people buy candles.
Yeah,
I don't.
some wax melts at a much higher temperature
There you
than
go.
others, and I
There you
have
go.
accidentally found that out in my life. Like, this is so
Yeah.
ridiculous. I wasn't the one
Yeah.
getting the wax on me, though.
Fortunately.
But yeah, you're right.
So yeah, so like or like a Wartenberg wheel, the wheel with all the spikes, it's usually silver. That's another kind of sensation play where it feels like it's poking you, or
Hmm.
maybe even like piercing the skin, but it's not,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully. Some of them are. I mean, that also goes to like sounding, um, which
Sounding?
is, yeah, that's where you would take a silver cylindrical thing tool, which is a sounder, and you put that in your urethra, and I mean, you lube it up first, please.
Of course.
But you put that in the urethra, and for men, that gives a different sensation. Like, I've not tried it, so I'm not going to try and describe it, but we're usually used to things coming out of our urethra and not going in. And so it's
Mhm.
just a different, like playing with different sensations.
Yeah, I'd fight a doctor if he tried to do that. Like, I just, I
So
couldn't
you
do
would
that.
not give your consent.
No, I would not. Exactly. That's right. Wow. Oh my God. And I've never felt so vanilla. I do. I
I
do
guess
really
that
do
would be
now.
another hard limit for me. I'm not into sounding.
Hmm.
Yeah, like the idea of it. Also, I'm not into getting fisted.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, like now that I'm thinking of hard limits.
That's got to be a long
Um,
process.
I always
Fisting?
think of, yeah, the like just the logistics of like how does certain things work without harming somebody in a permanent dangerous way. Like that's what I always think about. It's like how safely
Yeah,
you
you
do
gotta be
that.
careful. You need, I suggest gloves and lots of lube. Lots and lots of lube and patience. Like you're not just gonna be punching in there. You gotta work the hole, whichever hole it may be. Um, and then as it opens, work it some more, and you're just kind of like pushing those limits, but slowly and hopefully sensually. And before you know it, it's like a hand puppet.
Hmm. Wow.
I when I was writing my intro to anal sex article, the clinician that I interviewed, he was a relationships and sex therapist, and he's like,
Mm.
start by putting a butt plug in and just wearing that around town. And then which had never occurred to me. And then that made me think, how many people are walking around my town right now, just pleasantly wearing their butt plugs and
Yeah.
Yes.
just,
Some of them have LED lights so you can see them.
Some of them have lights, some of them are remote controlled. Yeah, butt plugs are wonderful and discreet, and yeah, you don't know that someone has it unless they want you to know, usually. My fear, because I enjoy anal play. My fear is always like having a butt plug in and being out in the world and somehow like I get hit by a bus or something and now I'm going to the hospital
Hmm.
and I'm like, well, shit, I have a plug in my ass. I mean, that would be the least of my worries, obviously,
Yeah.
if I'm going to the hospital. But it's just
Probably wouldn't worry
like,
much.
that attendee who is, has to pop this plug out of my butt
you just
before I
don't
go
want it in
into
the
like an
notes.
X-ray machine.
You don't want it in the
You
Right.
don't
notes.
want it in your chart notes.
Yes. Like, can we scratch that?
Oh, what was I again from my friend, what was a time when you had like a really unexpected learning moment. And I'm not exactly sure what she means, so I haven't been for any of her questions. So,
Um, anytime someone uses a safe word, that's definitely, I mean, it's a chance to learn. You need to learn what you did wrong or what they didn't like.
mm,
Even if it's what they asked for, it may, when they get it, they may decide that they don't like it. And so you know to like take that off and be careful maybe with that specific tool in the future. Um,
yeah, I guess it's a balance. Yeah, wow.
mm,
Huh.
and then just learning relationships, and the importance of ethics. Um, there, the first, the first kinky discussion I went to was it was about red flags and green flags and how to know if you can trust somebody or if they're showing signs that they can't be trusted. And we were all sitting in a circle. It was at someone's house. And there was one person there that was dominating the conversation, just in like always having something to say, not necessarily in a DS kind of way. Um, and we're talking about red flags, and then another person comes in, a woman, and she comes and she runs straight to this guy who's been talking this whole time. Um, and then I'm close enough where I hear that she, like, left her husband at home who doesn't know she's here to come and be with this guy at this kinky thing,
Mm.
and it's just, like, it's weird, it's uncomfortable, not necessarily because, like, you want to say something to someone because whatever their situation is, like, my first rule is it's not my business,
Mm.
um, but also just knowing, like, there is a dark side to this that where your ethics may not match up with other people's.
Right.
Um, but also, I think one of the positive things that I've learned is just how much trust and consent will benefit you in a relationship and how far you can go with certain things. I So there's something called needle play in kink, where you can take medical needles and, pierce someone's skin. It can be done to the point of having an actual, like, aesthetically pleasing, like, display on someone's back or wherever the needles are used.
Hmm.
Um, you can also, like, I think, like, not tie a ribbon, but you can use a ribbon to, like, make other designs with this. And that's the, like, really cool kind of beginner needle play. But if you go deeper into it, there are things called hook suspensions, where you're being suspended, like, by your skin and yeah, but, like, that's you're not gonna jump right into that. That's something that you go, like, yeah, work up to,
Right.
hopefully, but that takes trust, that takes patience, that takes, um, yeah, just a real ability to let go
Hmm.
and to have a different relationship, like, with your body to, like, know that you can push it to those limits.
It actually, there's a question that I wasn't going to ask because I felt weird, but now I'd have to. Have you ever done anything that has permanently altered someone physically? I'm assuming they wanted it too. I'm just saying, consent. I just
There there was one, actually, the redhead that I was telling you about earlier, in one of our first sessions, I gave her a perma scar, and that actually lasted for 3 years, but eventually it faded. Um, and the same thing happened to me. It was during a Jello wrestling. No, it was lube wrestling. Um, and someone, I think I had my arm around them, and they bit like my arm,
Mm-hmm.
and that scar stayed for a very long time. But like I've never broken anyone's anything or like altered their face or
Mm-hmm.
any other part of their body. And I think, yeah.
Wow.
So I was thinking about that question, and while like I've not physically altered someone, I'm sure that like mentally, maybe emotionally, spiritually, like there are alterations that happen. Like once you've had an experience with me, you're not gonna forget that experience. So that's gonna be something that like sticks with you,
Yeah, I'm
is
sure.
the hope.
I mean, yeah, it breaks up your week for sure. Like I was just talking to someone the other day about people like time keeps going by, keeps going by, keeps going by, and it gets by faster the older you get. I think that's because you're doing the same thing all the time. And you need something to remember. You need like milestones in your life to remember, and it makes time seem to pass longer. Guarantee that you would do that for someone. Like, I'm sure that
It's
that yeah. Wow.
yeah, that it is. You're very present
Yeah, I bet.
in these scenes, both as the top and the bottom.
Hmm.
The bottom is usually present in a way to, yeah, to feel the pain and to get through the pain. Whereas as a top, I'm just the whole time making sure that I'm not doing anything to permanently like hurt someone or to cross any boundaries. Or someone may say, like, hey, I just fell the other week. Please don't like avoid my left cheek or my left hip or something like that. And so, I'm aiming to try and get out of there, but there is a point where it's just a flow and you're both kind of in this space, um, that like everything else just disappears. And that's been the thing about dungeons and dungeon parties, is that I really got used to playing in front of people, um, and staying focused on what's happening. So like doing it now at play parties or on camera, it doesn't feel like doesn't feel as vulnerable, I'd say, because I've already been doing this.
Wow, it's very similar to art, like music or too, actually. They get into a flow state.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was going to ask how the transition was from doing this in private sessions or parties and then to being a content creator, because that seems very different.
It is. I was actually talking to a friend about this, who's a friend that's in burlesque, and we were talking about like coming out and like doing the thing, even if we're not like classically trained, because sometimes that's people's routes. There are some folks who will serve under another dom, or like in burlesque, will go to like classes to do the things. And there's more homebrew versions where you're just like you're going to dungeons, you're watching, you're waiting. I was in the group that I told you about. I was in there for about 3 years before I was topping someone on a regular basis. So about a year, my bad, not a three, about a year. But yeah, it was where was I going with this? What were we talking about?
Just the transition to like
That's
content
right.
creation. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But like doing it on camera, it's you definitely feel like there are going to be more eyes on you. There are going to be more experienced eyes. It's not just folks who are at this party. It's going to be people potentially around the world, but definitely folks who know what good flogging, what good topping looks like, and you have to have that kind of confidence that I'm doing it well, one, good enough that the bottom is not getting hurt because the safety of the bottom is always of the utmost importance. But also, in a way where, folks who have been doing this are not going to be like, that's dangerous. This person shouldn't be doing that.
Hmm.
Um, because reputation means everything in kink. And it's like I'd say when I first got started, and yeah, I'd say it's easier to track now in some ways, but yeah, like word got out if someone was not good to work with, if someone didn't respect someone's boundaries, if someone would push people too far. Um, and those are the folks that you avoid. So I think for me, I was at a conference last year and there was there were a lot more experienced folks there. Actually, this happened twice last year. It happened once at a gay leather weekend called Gear Up, and that's yeah. I just there were a lot of people there. I happened to find someone that wanted to play, and we were outside, and yeah, we're doing the thing, and people are walking by and they're noticing because this person does not, they, they're usually quiet when they play. And I encourage them to let go and to just let the noises out to really feel it. And so like they were much louder than usual. And yeah, like people, but they're also very well known. And this was my first conference. Um, but afterwards, like the next couple of days, the bottom came up to me and they're like, this person came up and talked to me. That person came up and talked to me. Like people were really impressed by both him and by me. And so it's like, okay, these are people who are not just like my local kink community, but folks who I don't know and have absolutely no dog in the fight.
Mhm.
But they're coming and they're giving their kind of praising what happened and the scene and everything. Um, the thing that I find weird about that though, and this happens consistently, is the bottoms will always be the one that people go to be like, "Oh, that was really cool." Obviously, like the bottom is getting the work, and so there's congratulations on that. Um, but like there was a top there too, and
Right.
I think people seeing you topping someone, especially in a kink sense, that can be a little intimidating and make it seem like I'm less approachable. Um, but you know, the good thing is that they like it and they're selling somebody about it because then it gets back to me and I can have like secondary pride.
Mhm. Right. Oh.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't even think about the potential of people like other DOMs judging you on your work and then you having to deal with that. That seems a little nerve-wracking. It is kind of like acting or music, like some kind of
Yeah.
performance then. And
Yeah.
yeah, so you feel like you have to at least learn. So, like you said that you did it, I guess, you didn't take courses, you just observed for a while. So what are the different routes that people
Mhm.
take before they start becoming a Dom?
Well, one thing that's great now is that there are a lot more workshops. Kink education is a lot more accessible than it was when I was first getting into it. And so like some people are really into rope. Rope is not my thing. That's another hard limit. But It's I like it, and when I first got into kink, that was what I gravitated towards because it was something that was safe. Like I knew unless I was suspending someone, I wasn't gonna hurt anybody. Um, and so I get the draw of rope, but at this point in my kink career, like that's not something I'm interested in. Um,
Is that like autoerotic asphyxiation? Is that what rope is?
oh no, 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 no. Autoerotic asphyxiation is when you're choking yourself, and
Oh,
yeah,
so
yeah,
what's rope?
usually choking yourself and masturbating, or some folks will actually like tie a noose up and have themselves in that. Um, yeah, that's
Totally different.
roughly in general is just not good.
Hmm.
I won't say it's not good. A lot of people will say it's not good and that you shouldn't do it. And that's your choice. And if you want to do it, there are risks involved. You need to know the risk and know how to do it in the way that's least likely to cause harm.
Hmm.
Um, but you also have a lot of folks who are casually doing it in the bedroom.
Hmm.
And that's what really I remember when that started to be like memeified, like
Hmm.
just choke me and all these things. And I'm just like, I hope you know what you're doing because if you don't, you're going to hurt this person.
Yeah.
So I will like anecdotally, I'm not going to name names, but I have several friends that have told me, "Oh yeah, I like to be choked," and I'm like, is that sick?" Because these are not people that are like in the kink community, and so I think you're talking about like two sort of vanilla partners, and one's
Yeah,
choking the other, and I'm like, that doesn't sound like that's safe.
right. It's that scares me. There are not a lot of things that scare me, but like and when it kept being popular and like getting more popular, I'm just like, are people taking the right precautions? Do they know what they're doing? Um, and like, I mean, I don't hear a lot about, worst case scenarios, but I'm not everywhere and I don't hear all the stories. So I can't give like it happens, what this percent of the time or anything like that, but it is dangerous. Even for experienced people, it's dangerous. So but the people who are doing it, who are experienced, know the risk usually, and are making an informed decision.
I wonder how that becomes like a go-to for people that are not experienced and are not in these community. Right? I'm like, are there other ways that you could explore that are maybe safer for you than having your partner choke you? I
There
don't
are there's so many, but
I've I've been with people that like being choked, but it isn't like you're actually preventing them from breathing. Like there's probably fake choking and real choking, and I think you can make
Okay.
your hands strong and do the motion kind of a thing and not actually be choking them, and they think I like choking. You know what I mean? Like
Okay. All
is
right.
that
So they're not
yeah,
really being
some
choked.
probably are, but I've never like actually stopped someone from breathing. Never.
right. But even that is taking into consideration like what could happen if you are actually like choking someone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not everyone gets that. I mean,
Yeah.
even depending on where your hand is on the person's neck, like you can break
Oh
someone's
hell
like
yeah.
larynx or like your neck. So
Yeah.
it's and I mean I am a person who's definitely done that before. That's been part of my play. Um, which is why it bothered me so much when that started to be so I won't say so mainstream, but you definitely
Yeah.
saw it a lot
Yeah. It
or
became a
saw or
thing.
heard it mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. I know what you mean. Um, what is a power bottom and how do you handle one? That was another question. I don't even know what I'm saying. Apparently, it's something weird. What? What is it?
Oh, it's not weird. It's
Okay.
just it's it's funny. Power bottoms are folks who are usually, well, okay. Sorry, I was just reminded of a rumor that went around about a prominent minister a few months ago.
Oh, good.
But a power bottom is it's someone who can you can really take a beating. For one, they like getting pounded. Um, at least I usually hear power bottom when it comes to gay sex. Um, but like taking that to the kink world, someone who can like a masochist, who's gonna kind of push the top to
Mm,
be better and to go harder.
right.
Um, that it can also be someone who's just like controlling what's happening from the bottom or topping from the bottom.
Mm.
Where yeah, like they're like yeah, just controlling, like trying to direct what's going on, or like what
They're a backseat top.
instrument is used. Essentially, yeah, exactly. So
That's funny. Stop
and
backseat
with
topping me.
those yeah, and with those kinds of folks, if the dominant is not secure in what they're doing and how they're doing it,
Oh.
then they can be exposed in those moments
Hmm.
where it's like, oh, you're not in control, you're not
Wow.
embodying this role.
Can roles
So
switch?
roles can switch.
Oh, that's interesting.
Usually that's negotiated.
Huh.
Um, Yeah, yeah, but or it just goes from scene to scene.
Right.
There are some folks who just are feeling switchy at some points
Hmm.
and want to want to do the opposite of what they are into or what they usually do.
Hmm. Interesting. Oh, it's so intricate. I love it.
Jason, just you know what was funny about that question? It was like the phrasing of it and the way that you asked it. Like, what is a power bottom and how do you handle it?
Well, every one of her questions, I've not known what I was talking about, so I've tried to figure out a different way to say it this time.
But actually,
Um,
so you keep talking about scenes,
Mm.
right? And so I'm wondering how long is a scene? Is there like an average or is there always an agreed
it
upon length?
depends. It depends, especially depending on the kind of scene you're doing. If it's a rope scene, then, once you have them suspended, if that's what you're going
Oh,
for, then
that's what
that's
rope is.
over. But that could take, yeah, rope is suspension. You can also do rope bondage. You can also do just rope aesthetics, where you may make a aesthetic harness, maybe one that's not used to, suspend someone or bind them, but it just looks good. Um, and that's again part of the reason that rope is very approachable. There's various things that you can do with it before going into, tying someone up in an uncomfortable position or tying them to a tree and walking away. Um, yeah. We, oh no, we're not talking about power bottoms anymore. Oh, length, session length. Yeah, with the session length or scene length, it's it can go for a while. Like with my impact scenes, there have a few different instruments, and it can be a tour of all of them where I'm using them all on someone for however long, or it can be just just one or two that are just the focus of that session. I've done scenes as short as 5 minutes. I've done scenes as long as an hour and a half. Um, and in private, those scenes are gonna look different and probably last longer than public play.
Mhm.
Partially because you don't want to hog the equipment. There's usually only so many like spanking benches or St. Andrew's crosses that will be in a dungeon. So folks will be waiting to use it, and you have to. It's
St. Andrew's crosses? What? What's that?
yes, St. Andrew's Cross is actually similar to this X behind me.
Oh, like a
I mean, that's
yeah.
literally what they look like. It's a big X, and yeah, you
Like
arm
flailing, except you're
slide,
not flailing them, flaying them, like they used to do
flogging.
that. No,
Oh,
there's a medieval. It looks just like an X, and they would tie them up. And I won't go any further with what they do because it's not related. It's just same structure.
oh.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's
you
not good.
usually will like tie someone, or I like gadget bondage. So I like to have cuffs and wrist cuffs, ankle cuffs, and you can use those to bind someone to something a bit easier.
Hmm.
Jayson, there's one of those at my local sex shop, which I can walk to from my
A,
house.
a big wooden X like thing.
Yeah, it's a leather one.
Oh,
Those are nice.
I live near the pleasure chest, which is,
Like,
eh, I'm sure you probably have heard of that before. I think that's kind of known, I guess, that it's a popular
does
store.
Spencer's count?
That's-
Or Hot Topic? I don't know because that's like that's all I
But
know.
yeah, but I will say that like going into the pleasure chest, it was the first time that I went into a sex shop that was a very like sex positive. Everything was clean.
mhm.
Like I can remember back in the day, you go into one and like the packaging is dusty and everything is just like
Right.
gross, and you're like, oh, what is this? And walking in there, and they're like, oh, how may we help you? And like, everybody understands like the products that they're selling, and it's a very nice place.
It's refreshing now, especially just with the more sex positive attitude, and redefining what that means. Really, I think over the past decade, it's definitely become a um, more robust understanding of sex positivity. And so that helps with the folks working at the sex shops and doing the workshops and the conferences and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was like blown away the first time somebody told me to go in there, and I thought, oh, it's gonna be like every other like place that I've ever gone where yeah, there's like literally dust in the packages. I'm like, I don't want to go in there. You just have that like grimy feel like you're being judged and everything's icky. But not the
It's very
case. So
quiet.
it's like yeah, and it's quiet. It's, right. Like but this was very it's great. I hope they're all like that all over the place now, and people can enjoy it. Maybe not. I
I,
don't know.
I wonder, like, I'm
Everybody.
definitely in a bubble here in Seattle, so I don't always know how things are outside of here, and I have to be cognizant of that. Like, every place is not Seattle. I work at one of the sex shops out here, and we also have a woman-owned sex shop called Babeland that is really popular. And it's the same thing as Pleasure Chest, where folks are very informed. I work at a place called Doghouse Leathers, and it's the same thing. Even if there are things that I have questions about, I'll ask those folks, and off top, they know what they're talking about. So yeah, like having folks who are informed, not only about products but about lifestyle, that really helps.
I guess that's a good segue. We haven't talked about your outfits. So I want to know, do you wear exclusively leather? Is there any pleather? Talk about your style, how you put things together.
Yeah, I definitely prefer leather. It's yeah, yeah, I prefer leather. Um, as far as my style, like a lot of the leather that I have was gifted to me, which is another thing about community. Not only like the leather community, but the pro dom community, at least here in Seattle. It's been very welcoming, and folks, like if they are getting rid of their leathers, they will usually let it be known. And like there's an event next month that I'm going to is just essentially a big leather thrift sale, um, which I'm really excited about. But even at Gear Up, one of the things I went to last year, there was a gear swap. And so you would bring either gear or toys that you didn't want anymore and swap them for something else. So yeah, I usually try to go for leather. I was fortunate that one of my friends had a nice pants and a jacket that fit me. And then I had a harness that I would wear over that and like a kind of a uh, not fishnet shirt, but it's got a bunch of holes in it. Um, and like that was what I had for my first little photo shoot that I was doing in my old apartment. Um, and some boots, some very nice boots that I love. Um, but yeah, like it starts with that, like just I'm in the lifestyle, I know I want this, and being in positions to, to kind of take advantage of that or to get it. I also like I've gone to Mr. S Leather and I've seen so many things that I want there. And so there are stores that are specifically like leather lifestyle kind of leather. And then you have other stores which are like general leather, but still things that are good and that you can bring into a leather ensemble. Um, I remember the first time I saw somebody in leather pants and a leather shirt and like a full leather get up with mirror cap and everything. um, and that I was just like, wow, that looks really good. Because I had seen leather pants and like a leather jacket before, but actually seeing someone like with a leather shirt, I think they had the tie and everything. I was just like, oh, that's the full like aesthetic. That's what I want to. That's what I want. And because a lot of what I understood of leather was very Tom of Finland, which like defined my aesthetic and the aesthetic that I was attracted to when it came to definitely when it came to gay men. The super masculine side of that was something that really stood out to me. Um, and and so like that being the base, a lot of those are like uniformed men. Um, and the the leather that we wear now is based off of that in a lot of ways. Because Tom of Finland like redefined or helped put another face to gay men of the time. Gay men were thought of as very effeminate and not manly. And with Tom's like drawings and the popularity of them, that's when you see the hyper masked gay men coming out in their leathers, and really kind of making it a point to yeah remain as masculine as possible, remain the men that they are, while also loving and showing affection for and having sex with other men.
I just want to be respectful of time. It's 10 minutes to 11 on the East Coast. So I just wanted to make sure you guys
Forgetting.
knew that.
I have like one question about the
Yeah,
leather
I'm
that
just going to ask you.
how do you clean it? Like, because you
I
can't
have
put it in the washing
conditioner.
machine. What if you need to wash the outfit?
Yeah, I have leather conditioner and leather cleaner, and you spray it, get your micro cloth, and kind of go it like hands. Uh, yeah, you just clean it by hand.
You don't own any leather, Rena?
I only I have pleather stuff. I don't
Oh,
I
okay.
actually need leather. But I'm like thinking like
okay.
maybe you're sweating or something, or like
Mm.
then how do you
Yeah, you
I
are.
don't know. I've never had leather outfits. Like I always have leather.
Yeah, it's wearing leather is it's an interesting little journey. Especially pants. I don't have leather pants that are not skin tight. So um so getting them on and off even is a struggle sometimes. Um
I'm just thinking of Ross and
Do
Friends
you
right
do you
now.
need help? Do you use Yeah, I think of that too. Yeah. Do you need like baby powder and like
The baby powder in the water is turned into a paste. I love that scene.
oh but yeah, like I've not I do try and at least lotion up before I do it to make it a little easier, but
Oh, interesting.
especially since I have hairy legs, like sometimes I'm trying to pull the leather up and I pull some hair out and
Oh God.
yeah, that's uncomfortable. I have like zipped up my penis once. That was
Oh
not
God.
fun.
Once.
Uh, that's all it
you only
takes.
do that once.
There's the
All
learning
it takes.
question. That question I asked about learning. There it is.
Right? That's an unexpected moment of learning right
That's
there.
right.
But yeah, it's
Well said.
once you get it on and once it warms up, um, it feels like a second skin. It feels like armor almost.
Hmm.
And the smell of leather, I love the smell of leather. So yeah, it's definitely a different vibe when I'm all leathered out.
I have a leather jacket that have had for probably 20 years. And the reason why I've had it that long is I never wear it because when I do wear it and I sit down, the shoulders go thump because it's just, I don't know, it's an awesome jacket and it's so amazing, but it's just like, it's just so thick and like, it's like, I don't know, crazy. I just want to like beat it up or something to make, make it stop being so unforgiving, but I never wear it enough for that to happen. I hate that.
That is the thing. You definitely have to wear leather
Yeah.
to get it to like chill out a little bit and be a little
Yeah.
looser,
Yeah, totally.
especially with boots. Ugh.
Mm.
The first pair of Doc Martens I got, I wasn't ready for the phase where the leather's like stretching. Um, and that it they were uncomfortable for at least the first week.
Yeah.
But but once they had like spread out or whatever, um, there was nothing like it. I
Yeah.
would wear those. Yeah, I wore those to the soles. So
Hmm. Yeah, I had some US Army boots that I had for like almost 15 years. They just would not die. And they were
mhm,
the most comfortable shoes I ever wore. Like it was just
yeah,
incredible. I hated getting rid of them, but there was a hole at the bottom. You could see the bottom of my foot. It was that's how long I wore them. They were just so
yeah.
amazing.
Also, when it comes to leather care, there are people called boot blacks, and they will take care of your leather. If you they usually have conditioning, and it's a way of service. It's a way of servicing not only a person, but yeah, servicing a person and taking care of their leather, which is they are amazing at what they do, and they can really add some longevity to your leathers.
Excellent.
And it's a respected position in the kink community. There are boot black competitions.
Mm.
I know a winner of one of the boot black competitions, and that's something that they take pride in as well. So while it's a service position, it's not something that's looked down upon.
Mm. That's
Hmm.
cool.
which is probably another misconception about kink, that submissives are looked at as less than or looked down upon at all, unless there's a degradation kink that's been negotiated. Um, it's not something that's not the way that that relationship or that dynamic plays out. Um, there's there's care there, and respect, which I find interesting even with people in the lifestyle, because there are folks who like they can play with um they can play with someone they see at a play party, but they won't play with their actual partner, and they say that they love them too much to hit them. But if your partner wants to be hit, then that is a way that they kind of receive that love.
Mm-hmm.
um, which and so it's like you're doing that out of care for them, and out of knowing like I can do this in a way that's safe, where they can get what they enjoy without being like injured.
Hmm. Well, we are at the mark. I would like to ask one more question, if that's okay. It's a question I ask everyone. I'm
Mhm.
dying to hear what you say. um, okay, it's a hypothetical question. It has nothing to do with anything we've said. um, so picture yourself wherever you are right now, and through the door, someone walks in. They look exactly like you. They're even wearing the same clothes, but everything is just a little disheveled and dirty and like they've been through something. And he walks up to you and he says, "Come with me right now. I'm from the future." What do you do?
Mm. I have to get over like seeing myself first. That's a dream come true. Um, but yeah, I go. This sounds like an adventure. This sounds like fun. I want to know all the things. Why, how this happened. Why is it so important that you need to come get me? I remember as a kid wishing that would happen,
Wow.
and being
Neat.
like, if there is a future that I've not experienced, and someone comes back from it and like just gives you the tidbits and the
Mhm.
things.
Right.
Isn't that there's a movie where that happens,
A
right?
few.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I
like
guess like with
Terminator,
like, oh yeah, that's right. And
It's
there's one that
Back to
I'm
the
thinking
Future.
of. Oh God, yeah. All right. There's a lot of them.
come with me, Marty. It's your kids. What do we become,
Where we're
assholes or something?
going, we don't need roads.
Roads. I used to love doing. I did a whole thing with Doc Brown one year for Halloween. It was really fun. I did the
Oh, that's
voice.
awesome. Yeah, no, Back to the Future is one of my favorite series.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Little
like
Sir
all
Dion
three.
tidbit. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And the fourth one's coming out this summer.
Really?
Wait, what?
They're
They're
yeah,
making,
it's same people, everything.
is
Yeah,
everyone still
well,
alive?
yeah,
Mm,
they're all alive. The
yeah,
funny
yeah,
thing
they're
is
definitely alive.
Doc Brown looks exactly the same age as he did back then. It's really weird. I mean, a little bit different, but
Now I'm a
Uh,
little fascinated by that,
yeah.
actually. You think it'll be any good?
Yes. I think I'll enjoy it for nostalgia. Like, you know,
mm,
I don't think
But
it's
will
gonna
yeah.
it
be
be good? You'll
brilliant.
enjoy it. You'll enjoy it no matter what. But will it be good?
Well, Steven Spielberg's directing it. I mean, that's important.
This is the first I'm hearing of any of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Ghostbusters also, so you know.
I'd heard about Ghostbusters. I don't know, maybe I just blocked it out. But
My algorithm's probably sending me stuff like because I'm always looking up movie trailers. That could
mm,
be why I hear this. I hear a lot about movies, and my algorithm's just like movies, movies, movies.
do you watch Honest Trailers?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I have seen that. Yeah, the YouTube channel.
Love those.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
hmm Yeah. I hate when they do it. I don't like when they do a show, a movie I love though. So it's like, come
It's a little
on,
harder.
come
There's some of them
on.
where I have to wait.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, I need to be at a place where I'm not enjoying this as much.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, look for Ghostbusters and Back to the Future this summer.
Like we're plugging.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yep, this is sponsored by Steven Spielberg and Rob Reiner.
I wish.
I know, me too. But
Oh, but
awesome.
speaking of movies,
Yes.
though, Batman Forever. You had, I believe that was Michelle Pfeiffer that was playing
Oh,
Catwoman.
that was two Batman Returns.
Okay.
Michelle
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pfeiffer and Dan
That's what I
DeVito.
meant. Batman Returns.
Yep.
Yes.
Batman Forever
Perfect Christmas
sucked.
movie.
But yes.
Perfect holiday movie.
Yes.
But the thing that I really like about that is Catwoman scene where she's in the shopping center and she
Mm.
whips the mannequins.
Yes.
Michelle Pfeiffer did that in one take.
Oh my
And
God.
as someone who has like used a bullwhip, that's impressive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
And
oh wow.
also
I
like
didn't know that. I thought it was just magic. I thought they did like like FX. Like when she does this, we're just gonna pop that one off with like a button, you know?
right.
Or wow, she did that?
Yeah.
That's
She actually did
amazing.
that. Yeah, that's one of that clip comes across my timeline every now and then, and I
Wow.
just have to stop and watch every time because
Yeah, then she
that's
does that cool thing where she's in one motion wraps it around her body. I love that
mhm,
whole scene. I love that movie in general. Such a great
yeah.
movie.
Batman is my other leather inspiration, um,
Oh yeah.
for
Uh,
sure.
I could see that in some of the, I
Yeah.
was looking at your pictures.
Oh yes. How do
Yeah.
you get nudes onto Twitter? Like I did not realize that was a thing. I thought they
Oh
Oh
were
yeah,
yeah, Jayson,
private.
there's
Twitter's
nudes all over Twitter.
I didn't know
yeah.
that. I
Some
thought
yeah,
that
some folks use Twitter as their main like porn source.
wow,
And a
interesting.
lot of content creators are advertising and marketing on Twitter. It's I wouldn't say it's sex worker friendly, but that's
Hmm.
that's where a lot of them are. A lot of yeah.
I thought it just had the
I
same
mean,
rules, as like Facebook or something. I had no
no,
idea.
like Facebook and Instagram do, because Facebook owns Instagram, but Twitter, Reddit, and now Tumblr apparently is making a comeback, but that's
Hmm.
where nudity and sexual content is allowed. Yeah, so but it's hard though. I mean, there are many reasons not to use Twitter right now, and that like everyone for a little bit, especially when it was first purchased, was ready to leave and trying to find the next platform. Blue Sky has been something that folks
Oh
have
yeah.
have gone to, and they just opened it publicly. I think over the weekend, and then
Telegram or something. Or was that? Oh no, that's
there
still
are
right.
Telegram groups, Discord groups.
Discord for sure.
Probably, yeah, yeah.
Hmm. You've got an X behind you, so when Elon switched the the name to X, were you like,
If I didn't hate that it happened so much,
yeah, it's
I would have
such a
taken advantage of that.
it was so dumb. It's like what?
There's yeah,
Why would you
yeah,
do that? I just don't get it. And it still isn't even done. Everyone always says X, formerly Twitter. Like it's never going to be just
Yeah.
X.
yeah. I still don't refer to it as X.
Yeah,
It's
weird.
Twitter.
Is there anything that you want to plug or that because that'll remind me also to make sure it's in the description for the video and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely my website, sirdionx.com.
Mhm.
That's going to be the main place to be able to find me. My Instagram feed is on there. My Twitter, you can follow me through there. I'm also going to have links to my Just for Fans and any other subscription sites that I do. I got I have a scene coming out with a large production company, large-ish, or well-known, I'll say. Um, and I'm really excited about that. More
Hmm.
info coming up. Stay tuned to the Twitter and Instagram for that. Um,
Is
but
that nothing
yeah,
you can talk
it's
about right now, or is it hush hush?
I'm keeping it a secret right now.
Okay.
And it's yeah, I'm excited about it and very excited to talk about it. But I definitely want to start talking about it more around the time it's going to come out. And maybe just not say anything
Mm-hmm.
and let the
Yeah.
surprise happen.
Nice. Cool. And for us,
Uh,
anybody that's watching, please like, subscribe, and share. Most of all, subscribe. And did you say you have a YouTube channel?
I do not.
Okay. Right. That would probably wouldn't work well. Actually, now that I think
It
about it,
could. I mean, there are
yeah.
folks that do full on like flogging lessons
Hmm,
on YouTube. There
okay.
are people that talk about just kink dynamics
Hmm,
and different types of play. YouTube is a very good source for some kink info.
hmm, interesting. I had no idea. Again, the
Mhm.
algorithm.
Just
Now
start
the
typing
algorithm's
BDSM.
gonna,
You'll be
yeah,
surprised what comes up.
I
now
know
the
you're.
algorithm's gonna give it all to you, Jason, because you've looked up a few things, and now
Oh
you're just
yeah, yeah.
pink
Well, my
BDSM.
algorithm's all over the place weekly, depending on what I'm looking up that week. But it always goes back to video games. It knows where my home is. Ah,
There you
safety in
go.
video games. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. It's been wonderful.
Thank
I'm,
you.
I,
I'm glad to talk to you folks.
yeah,
And hopefully this isn't the last time. I'd love to come back sometime and
yes, that would be
chat.
fantastic. That would be
Uh,
great.
I I might actually tap you as a source if I have to write a kink article.
Please do. Please do. I'd be glad to do that. I mean, education is at the foundation of what I do. Um, I mean, I like to be informed. I also like for the people around me to be informed. And I've done impact play workshops. I'm going to be doing a bit more kink and sex education. So yeah, I'd
Or you should do a
love to
master
chat.
class.
No, no.
No? Oh,
I
master.
they that
I
whole
know.
thing just annoys me. Like you're paying for the subscription, then you're paying for the class like
Yeah,
individually. That I don't like that model.
nice.
And yeah, I'm not gonna go on a whole diatribe about that, but
We do like
yeah,
diatribes. All right,
But
cool.
also, I want to finish my salad tonight, so
there
that I
you go.
started before we we started this call.
Awesome. All right, awesome. Well,
Don't want to
thanks
eat
a lot
on
again.
camera?
I
No,
would. I mean, she doesn't. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. There's actually feeder kinks out there, so that might go left.
Is it muck or wait, what's it called? Muck? Is it
Oh,
muck play?
feeders.
Oh, right. Where you? Okay, I was thinking of a different thing. That's ASMR is what I was thinking of.
Oh, well, there,
Where you
that's a
like
thing
eat
too.
things into
Yeah.
a microphone.
also, I hate eating sounds like
Yeah,
from
you
it. Like,
wouldn't like this. Wouldn't be good for
ooh,
you.
Mm,
no, no eating sounds.
Yeah. All right.
mhm.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks a lot, and have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
evening.
Yeah,
You too.
thank you. All right,
Bye.
bye.
Bye.